You know what people forget to do when they pack for vacation?
Tell me.
They forgot to go through their work email. Because when you take PTO and your boss is already begrudging that you've taken this time off and taken time away, they will jump on your email and go through the search function, right? How many times have you had someone that's like, I stumbled upon this email. I was covering their email and I came across this email from 2015 where they were talking shit about me. And you're like, just come clean. We all know how that search function works. You go out, you got to make sure that your email is tidied up. You got to search 100%. Your manager's name. You got to search all those people's name because when they are covering for your email, they are coming for themselves, right?
Also, highly suggest just doing it off a company property.
Yeah.
Like text message.
Yeah,
or
keep it clean.
Video chat.
So you're saying that you have people in your email?
People, yeah, if sometimes you may go out and someone will cover your email. Never.
Never in my whole life. No.
Never.
We've had shared mailboxes.
No, I've had it. People are out and bosses will cover. But I've had it with a colleague.
Oh my God.
And it was incredibly helpful because we would go back and forth. And so we could see how we responded to, to things.
You mean I could have had someone doing my work for me
literally
while I was on PTO this entire time?
Yes, 100%.
What the hell is wrong with me?
Just generally.
It's been nearly 20 years of me just working. What am I thinking?
100%. Oh, they responded to this already. This is how you can use this. But at times, if someone is ever jumping in and covering your email, and then people get defensive. They're like, that's my personal email.
Yeah.
Well,
it can be damning.
It's not. But when the boss jumps in, I guarantee they're going to be searching for their name and see what you have to say about them. And that is a humbling experience for people.
Yes.
But yes. But people claim they stumbled upon it. They did not.
Oh, yeah. You don't stumble upon nothing from 10 years ago in my email.
We all know when you're at your busiest, what are you going to do? You're going to find something to procrastinate on, right?
Yeah.
So if you have something and you're trying to cover their workload, people will dive deep on what are they saying about me in here?
For sure.
So for the record, best practice not to talk shit about your boss.
That's an overall, or anyone.
Take it on the text
but
message.
I think all of us will see it is amazing the things that people have
verbals
about other people in their work email.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I mean, I sure Lee and I probably have stories for days, but I can't believe
that's why I don't put anything in writing like that. You know what I mean?
Like I can't believe the dumb shit that people put in chat. Or I'm like, you realize that's company property, dumbass.
Like, or when all of a sudden you get like a forwarded email, don't you go back and you read the entire history?
100%.
I do, right? There's been like 50 emails. Let me start at the beginning. And then you see all the drums,
all the tea, all of it.
Totally the best.
And they're throwing everyone under the bus. And then they send it to you.
Then there's
and it's like, you threw me under the bus like 8 times like for the past 6 weeks on this email chain. Why would I help you now? Oh, God.
100%. But it is
I didn't
amazing.
know that was a thing.
I didn't either.
It's a thing. But you got to make sure. You always got to keep it tidy.
Well,
so Jenner, don't do it in the first place. But when you're going out, someone may cover your email. Make sure.
That's a good rule of thumb.
It's a good rule of thumb.
But no matter what, whether you're going out or not, your employer always has access to that.
100%.
You know what I mean? Yep. So they can go in there and nothing's truly private, right?
Yeah, nope.
Like I'm putting a hair appointment as private on my calendar. Well, technically they can still see it. Someone can see that. You know what I mean? Not your colleague, but IT can see that. HR is going to see that in investigation.
Well, and what people, if you've ever seen like the deposition episode of The Office with Michael Scott and everyone's sitting around reading it, what people don't realize, if there's ever a lawsuit, what often can happen now is you may have a room of 30 contract attorneys that are going through and people are going to be like, hey, check out what I got and reading out loud.
Article,
100%,
whatever.
100%.
Like...
This is what this person, this is what this person put. They're having a fight with their wife. So just know it is not a diary. Your work email is never a diary.
And I think the common misconception too is that we sit around and read the chats. Like I don't have fucking time for that.
I do not care.
The only time if it has to come up and there's an investigation and someone said, you said this over chat. But otherwise, I don't have time to read that.
No,
I mean, I would love to.
Cares.
I will say, though, in a company I worked for, the COO would love to go on and read it. She was the only person in the whole entire company. Yeah. She used to call it her Twitter. I'm not kidding.
I'm going to go read my Twitter.
Fucking sick.
But then those people have the biggest jobs and get paid so much.
Of
and they're just going
I'm
like, you get paid how much? And you're sitting here reading.
Company Twitter.
And she specifically would do it like after
Company X now, sorry.
She would do it specifically like after she got onto someone. Like if she.
Of course.
and like she just wanted to see what they'd say about her. So like I'm a shitty person.
Setting people up.
And so I would start like not planting the bug that she had her Twitter, but I'd be like, you should probably limit what you say. Because I'm like, this is ridiculous. She's just fishing for shit and people to hate.
People do that.
And
that place was so toxic.
And those people are the first ones that come after, like the junior employees are busting their ass and are like, 100%. Time theft.
The people
Don't
actually
take any
doing the
breaks.
work.
Time theft.
Of
like,
course.
You are thieving the time, ma'am.
100%.
That is your theft.
God. All right. So for the sake of time, let's go ahead and jump in. I know, again, we have a hard stop. Jamie, can you please run us through the agenda for today's meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. So first we will have Ashley bring us our cringy corporate speak, and then we will have our hot topic of who makes the decisions at work and why HR is the scapegoat often. And then we'll round it out with some Q's and C's.
Awesome. Some questions and comments. Always love that.
Okay, guys. My cringe is going to be a phrase, which is the phrase, well, that's what you signed up for.
Oh my God, you signed up for this.
Yeah, put that in my job description. Thanks.
Yes. In the way that sometimes is brought is if something's going through something challenging at work and people will say, well, you knew what you signed up for. That's it. That's your job.
So good luck. You're screwed.
Yeah, good luck. Okay, thanks. And that is the equivalent of kicking someone on the ground emotionally when they are trying to reach out to you to get some sort of empathy. Thoughts?
It's gross.
I literally have heard this on my own videos on TikTok. Like me joking about being in HR for the last 20 years. Well, you signed up for it. Well, no shit, Sherlock. But that's not going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Dealing with people like you.
If you're a leader and you're hearing this, please don't ever say that phrase.
Never.
No.
You come across as so unapproachable. You know what I mean? Right. Which means eventually, if it's not already happening, that everyone's going to sanitize messages to you. You don't know what's going on, right? If you're saying things like this, people aren't bringing anything to you, because if you can't help them when they're down, they're definitely not going to bring you things to celebrate. They're not going to bring you data. They're not going to, you're missing out on a lot of things if you're that type of leader. Well, you signed up for this.
Right. Totally.
Oh my God.
And I think the way to respond, people say that, is sometimes empathizing, and whether you can do it if your relationship is joking or whether it's just saying like, oh my God, 100%, we will get through this. Or at times like, you know what, let's deal with this on Monday. This is not a Friday. We do not need to end our weeks like this.
Yes.
And sometimes it is having that level of empathy, but 100%, because you shut down someone on their worst day, then they are not going to be having their best days with you in the very near future. They're going to be having their best days
You're not trusted
with other leaders and at other organizations.
Yeah. So I do not credibility.
It's very similar to your paycheck is the thanks. Which is also very similar and related, which is like just show up and do your job and check out and thank you and get that done.
Zero appreciation. More bees with honey, people.
That's exactly right.
You know?
I agree.
Yeah. Oh, God. So Ashley, kick us off with how HR is the scapegoat.
Well, and I think we all get this in different ways when we do videos. And often when you do videos, the comments, at least on my comments, many of them have nothing to do with that video altogether.
Oh my God, yes.
It's like a topic, and then people are like, okay, and do a video on this. Okay, say please, like, I'll try. But oftentimes it is this thing of, HR cut my pay. And HR made these decisions. And also oftentimes it's also not anyone's name from HR. It's HR as
the
this
collective.
The collective HR. But frequently that may be HR translating the message, or that may be a situation of HR literally communicating that. But thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that, especially leaders that are not comfortable having hard conversations, right? Leaders that make mistakes, which happens, right? We're leaders here. We make mistakes. They are constantly tossing over the fence. Oh, well, HR wouldn't let me give you a promotion. Really? All I ask is, who do you want to promote? Right? I sent you a spreadsheet of names of your team. You know what I mean? You made that. Yeah, you tell me, right?
And I also asked you to write the job description and you refused.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh. It's this constant thing that's happening in the workplace. And I know that the HR pros that are listening to this are like shaking their heads. Yes, yes, yes. But for those of you that aren't in HR, I ask you to reflect back on times with your leader or manager and current job or past where they, scapegoated HR to say, well, HR wouldn't allow this. HR didn't want to hire you for this position. HR didn't want me to promote you. HR said I had to tell you that you suck, right? Yeah. And reflect, because does that even make sense? Like half the time when you really think about it, does that make sense? Is HR oftentimes the messenger? Absolutely.
Yes.
But we are many times the scapegoat where your leader just does not want to be honest with you, because I'll tell you what, I do not have the time to watch what you all are doing, nor do I give a shit. Yeah. No, literally, I'm not Googling you. I've never Googled a candidate. I've never Googled an employee.
Me neither.
I mean, I literally do not care. What happens is, FYI, is your manager is documenting things and they bring a pile to my desk and they literally point their finger at me like, fire this guy. I can't take him anymore. Right. And I then have to turn and I have to advocate for you behind the scenes, which you don't see, to say, why? This is the first time you've mentioned this person. So to me, they're the perfect employee. Like, prove it, basically. Right. And again, it's a confidential conversation that's happening behind the scenes that you're not seeing. But it is happening almost on the daily. But was that me as the HR pro, like collecting all the documentation and data? Well, maybe after the fact, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm probably going to investigate something, but I'm not over here setting anybody up. I'm not over here out to get anybody in the workplace,
My money's on you probably are the one who's delivering that message too.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
Exactly.
So that's where, it's like, actually your leader showed me what a shitty employee you were over the course of the last 6 months. And that's why we're now here. Mm-hmm. It also comes up a lot in like raises and budgets and like performance time. And I don't think
merit increases.
Yes. I don't think people actually realize that, for instance, a lot of times there's a board and they might be the ones approving like, hey, this is our budget. And so everyone's going to get 2% across the board.
Trust me, I did 2%. I'm an employee too. I'll take a 10% any day.
HR just gave. I'm like, we had literally nothing to do with that other than like making sure all those changes got put into the HRIS system.
I know.
We also got the 2% bullshit increase. And a lot, I don't think a lot of times, because I've worked in small and very large companies, that HR a lot of times is not even involved in budgeting for our department, but not budgeting for the entire company's salaries. That really has to do with, C-suite, but finance and accounting and bonus like that. Sure, we might say all manager levels get 15% bonus, but we're not saying so-and-so gets 20. That manager's getting 20. Like, we're not picking and choosing.
No, your leaders are.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. It's it's always the people in my comments about money. And it's like, we literally have nothing to do with it.
But they're going to shoot the messenger.
Yeah, I wish that I had more control,
Me too.
to be honest.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I've been lucky that in previous jobs that I've had great relationships with the finance team or
you can influence the decisions,
and help influence those decisions. But it doesn't mean that I win by any means. And a lot of times when people, for instance, let's say you ask your boss for an increase or a raise, and so then they come to HR, and once again, HR is like, well, here's what I can tell you. But once again, we can't even necessarily sign off on raises. We have to make like a plea for it, essentially.
Yeah, and we have to make a case, right?
Yeah. And we got to run it up the chain and make sure that it's signed off. But ultimately, it's not our decision. And that's one thing I think is very funny. And I know we've all received comments is people think in our angry comments that we have so much more power than what we really do.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
It's like, thank
I'm
you for
like
thinking so highly.
Yeah, I'm like, I promise I'm not that powerful.
Yeah.
And also we're governed by the exact same policies that
you all are.
That not only you are, but I have written, unfortunately, or inherited, right? And
modified, enhanced.
We are also an employee. And I think, you hear HR is not your friend a lot. And I'm like, who the fuck is your friend? Like, I'm sorry, is finance when they decide to pay you $40,000? Is the CEO your friend? And I just, it's funny because they had one bad experience, and I'm not saying every HR person is a good person either.
No. There's bad
because there's definitely, there's bad everything. There's
bad doctors,
CEOs,
bad teachers, you name it.
Well, a lot of HR professionals did not, like HR ostensibly, and we'll have other times we have deeper conversations, agenda specific meetings where we talk about HR's role, but frequently, the person that's in HR started out by luck of the draw. They may have been a billing coordinator.
100%.
Then they're like, "Oh, you're good with numbers. We'll put you in
depending
payroll."
on your org,
Payroll has to do with HR. Oh, you can do benefits. All of a sudden, you are in charge of being responsible for human issues and have had absolutely
zero. Yeah,
no training generally because HR isn't. It's not like when I became a lawyer and had to pass the bar. It's not like CPA where you have this objective qualification. There is no standard qualification for HR. And many people in HR, phenomenal people, did not have any sort of HR degree. I don't think that's ever should be a bellwether of whether someone's in HR or not, but having the empathetic lens. And so sometimes those bad people in HR literally don't know what they're doing.
Literally.
And they haven't been invested in to give that. And at times there's organizations that don't care. I mean, in the comments frequently I'll get, what do you do if HR is part of,
part of the issue.
Is part of the issue. And that 100% can happen. But I think
run. Literally, because that's the type of culture you have. It ain't going to get better. Okay.
But sometimes HR will get like by the individual employees, or when you have things like open enrollment with benefits, like, oh, HR picked this package, and like,
actually, we had nothing to do with it.
Generally, that truly is at the finance and CEO level about what financially, and sometimes, especially in the American system, at times, literally, it's the luck of the draw. An insurance company says it'll be 25% increases, and you're trying to negotiate, but it's certainly nobody choosing to have that sort of that increased profit is not going into the company's pocket generally.
No.
But on the flip side of the scapegoat at times is with managers, they'll say, well, HR won't let me get rid of this employee. And sometimes that's because the conversation is HR flipping that lens and saying, James, you're talking about this employee. This is the first I've heard of this.
Absolutely. And that's our best employee as far as I'm concerned.
Have you set them up for success? And I can't tell you how many times I've asked that question.
Every employee is a walking billboard for every applicant, every employee, and every former employee is a walking billboard for your organization. And so if the first time an employee is hearing of performance issues, even if you say, I have 1 million emails, they should know we don't have time to deal with this. Then HR at times will say, this, and sometimes they'll say, well, put them on a plan. Also, I do not think a plan, like the first time they should hear about the performance should not be a plan.
Should not be a
formal plan.
No.
But saying have this conversation. And managers will get frustrated. And in part, it's like anybody's job. You have a job, you're trying to meet these goals, and you may think to yourself, you know what, I should have had this conversation, but I didn't, and now I have this, and that's my job on the line. But in an organization, you have to remember that when you have humans, HR sometimes is going to have that mirror back and say, is this a fair? And going back to the question I think is important is, how would you want to be treated in a situation? And if your boss hasn't had a clear conversation with you before and tried to dig into it and done all of these steps before going to more formal measures, then it feels incredibly unfair. And as I frequently say, it is weird.
Yeah. So it's really HR won't let me fire someone illegally.
Yeah. Or unfairly.
Unfairly, unjustly,
right.
Inequitably, right? I mean, they never finish that sentence, but what I always find fascinating, so if you're a leader out there and you're hearing basically, HR professionals rant about you here at the moment about, you scapegoating us all the time, I can tell you probably 99% of the time, if not 100%, bless us, the masochists we are, we fall on that sword for you. I do not throw you under the bus back to your employee. I do
Same.
not.
I signed up for this.
Exactly. It's what I signed up for.
This is my
You
job.
know what I mean? And so I am not going to do that because I want your success as a leader so much. I want you to maintain your credibility. I'm not going to lie to the employee, but what I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. Well, here's actually what the process is for this year, right? Here's how we've determined to do promotions. Hey, have you had an honest conversation with your leader of your expectation, right? I'm putting, you know what I'm saying? I'm massaging the situation. When people come in, literally, I've had people screaming, very violent with me. Why, blah, blah, blah. I mean, literally very vulgar, coming in. It's like, whoa, okay. First off, you're not going to talk to me that way. You're welcome to sit down and we can have a conversation as adults. But what did your leader tell you? Okay, very interesting. And then I'm thinking, I can't wait to talk to that person here in about 30 minutes and just rip them a new one, but I'm not going to do it with your employee, right? That would not be professional. Now, to Ashley's previous point, there's this evolution in the field of HR. It's not a job that requires a certification, a medical degree, whatever, right? It's something else. Like I may have gone to business school, have multiple grad degrees and all this, blah, blah, blah. I may be right next to an HR person.
Do you really?
I do. But I may be right next to a person that was an admin and is now in charge of like a full department of HR that literally, bless their hearts, they do not know what they're doing, right? And again, to the evolution of HR from personnel, something more administrative, task-based, to something very highly strategic, right? Literally, I consider myself a business person first, right? Who specializes in people, right? Making actual business decisions, multi-million-dollar ones for the company on the daily, right? It's like, you have that full gamut where you don't know what you are going to get. And even the larger corporations, right?
Yeah. And funny thing is in college, my degree is actually human resources management. So I did sign up for
She
this
knows
shit.
her shit. Yeah, I did too. I signed up for this.
But like,
what was your undergrad degree?
A psychology and business. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Was I highly trained for this? Absolutely, I was. Am I still every day in the last 20 years challenged with a new thing? Absolutely. But every day. But I also,
which is the best part of HR.
Yes. We wear many hats.
Yes. Oh, that's another fast-paced environment.
We're like
challenging environment.
We love that.
But I don't even remember my point here. But I think I was trying to circle back on was that we might have signed up for this. We might be highly trained. We might not be highly trained, but we're all in the trenches. And I would dare to say, in the 3 years I've been in social media, human resources, I want to say at least 90% of us are really out here trying to do good by the employees.
95.
We are employee
right? I mean, it's up
advocates.
There. No one wants to suck.
I think 94.7.
No one wants to suck.
We do not want to hate you. And I know that, your cousin Billy Bob got fired by that See You Next Tuesday. And she was terrible, but that ain't me.
Right. One person's a bad experience again. And it really can be hard when you go through something or you go through family and that person is the messenger and that feels incredibly personal, or you have someone that just was a bad professional. But the hard part is then to have any sort, we'll see these kind of, HR is, whether it's the comments about like the corporate evil and things, and you have people that go out that try to influence what they can. And it certainly is not easy. But sometimes you'll have people that'll say like, oh, how do you get into HR? And I'm like, people watch our videos and you want to, like,
I know.
You really are, Matt, and you should, because if you watch this shit and you really want to get into it, you should. But some of the skill sets at times, because people say, how can you get into HR? And sometimes it's, if your process, it's okay, being a project manager, moving into that, or benefits coordination, or some of that more, and then learning those skills. But the best, I'm thinking back, the best HR professional that I've worked with who was on my team, I'm trying to think through people. One of the best, maybe I'll give some caveats in case there's other people listening, but one of the best, she was social worker in children's hospitals.
Oh.
And so she had worked and had those empathetic conversations. And again, had
Hard
very
Yeah.
100%
conversations.
hard and is really hard to do for an entire career. Incredibly important role. But she took that skill set and translated that into HR and did that without having any sort of, formal certification, but learning the ropes, was trained by someone who did terrifically. I worked with her in the way she would have conversations. And so sometimes if you do have that skill set, in the same way, if you're in HR and you're feeling like I'm the scapegoat, I can't have these, I do think there's a lot of transferable skills. But if you watch our videos, if you listen to this podcast and you're still interested in HR, then come on, because that means you are 100%
absolutely.
You're already
able to take it, because you will.
And boy, I love this shit.
I will, because there's also,
my God.
there are also good days. Like I remember I saw someone recently in person and they were like, I'll never forget how you helped me with my 401k.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was like, didn't I just
doing
help
my
you with
damn
the
job.
login?
Yeah.
And I think it was like some sort of
that's
like
constant.
very basic, but the problem with HR, or the hard part for employees, no matter what your level, including top leaders, is it's incredibly important stuff. It has to do with your
personal.
family.
It's personal.
It's very personal. And so also in that way, you can have conversations and be that sounding board or influence things. And so there can be rewards as well. It's not just the scapegoat situation, but I encourage managers and employees also to think about how you can think about that role of HR and how they can help you. I mean, oftentimes it's, how do I have this conversation? And it's not having that conversation for me. Sometimes it's giving ideas of how to be more productive. And not every HR professional can help you with that. But some of the good ones really can. I mean, I did not have an HR degree. I've never had certification. I did go to law school, but if anything, that probably, would generally make people less empathetic.
Right.
But for me, that's why when I was
y'all get a bad rap too, so you're in our club.
Yeah,
we hate you too.
We do, and it's no fun. It's
you
no
get
fun.
scapegoated too all the time. Well,
fun,
legal said.
But again, right?
Every HR professional. Well, legal told me.
Legal told me, and that's true, and that's absolutely true. And legal has, again, like legal, when you're legal, you have certain ethical or unethical obligations, whatever people might call that. But I got into HR because I was so tired of the legal aspect in like the win or loss, or like the like you win something and it never feels like a win. And I am a person that deeply cares about people at work and people feeling like they're respected. And so for me, it was moving into HR and having those conversations and being able to actually, impact people's work and life and build recognition programs for people. Yes. And there's a lot of things you can do. And so all throughout the podcast, we will be giving some of these ideas as well. But I just think it's really important for people in HR to learn how to use your voice.
Absolutely. Now, for the sake of time, I'd love to close us out on this hot topic by saying, we are just so blown away that some of you out there think that HR is the primary decision maker in an organization, right?
Thank you for that power.
Yeah, thank you so much that you think that we are the core decision makers at work. But like every other person in the organization, it's absolutely a team sport. So, we're going to tell you here right now that who makes the decisions at work, many, many, many people, final decisions, it's really going to be those top leaders. We try our damnedest as HR professionals to influence as much as we possibly can. And the great HR professionals are doing it from an employee advocacy perspective, right? That's what I've seen, right? And so you definitely have in the HR besties that sort of mindset. Now, questions and comments, right? I want to make sure before we close this meeting that we have time for those. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Please.
I think I have picked up on a theme, and I want to call that theme out as, once again, radical empathy. I mean, we just keep hearing it. And I think if you have that already built into your brain and you're just like a good human, it's going to translate into being a kick-ass HR professional.
I love it.
I love that.
I love that. Ashley, any question or comment from you?
So as we talk about scapegoats, it reminded me of this time when I was in college in Danville, Kentucky. And I don't know if you've ever had experience with a real goat. But
Where is this going?
I have not. I haven't had the pleasure.
well, I'll tell you, it's not a pleasure. I will be honest
Okay,
with you, because
to know.
some people I knew, these guys at my college, Center College in Danville, Kentucky, go Colonels. These guys had a goat as a pet for about a week and a half. I think that's how long it lasted. It was there. But some on my field hockey team, some of the players thought it'd be funny, I think after a night out, to bring this goat into this freshman Rose on our team, to bring it to her dorm room. And you know what's really hard is like, people say that about like a horse or a whatever, getting that goat in. This goat was running all over the place, and it climbed stairs, and it would not come down. And so, but I'll tell you what is really hard, not only getting the goat out, but goat droppings.
Yes.
I don't know what the formal
damn.
name is, but I don't know. When we talked about
Goat shit.
it is. So if you ever have an inclination as a prank
and
or
they like
otherwise,
shit everywhere
100%.
constantly.
I mean, it's like
Yeah.
it was a real thing. And so I'll never it was a long time ago. I'll never forget it. But so if you're ever thinking of a prank, first of all, don't do that to the goat. Please do not do that to the
Poor
goat.
goat.
But it's not going to work out like you think it might when you're initially cracking up this plan. So with that, Lee, that relevant thought, I'll pass it back to you.
Well, that is incredibly applicable to this conversation. It's totally applicable. I don't know much about goats, right? So not a question, but a comment. And I totally lost it because I went on a goat. I started thinking about goats. Oh my gosh. Now,
Lee's a goat.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. And so, what I'd say is that if you are a leader out there, if you're a manager and you throw me under the bus, right. And so this is all for the future leaders that I may work with and coach one day, right?
This is a threat.
This is a threat. It's a veiled threat. Oh my God. It's
maybe
an HR
it's
threat.
not a threat. It's a promise.
No. But what I'd like to say is that if you throw me under the bus and you scapegoat me as your HR partner, it's going to break my heart in a way because I really do focus on the relationship with my leaders, right? But what I would like to do is just take 1 minute to share what I wish I could share with you, but won't. Right. So if I was being honest, after you scapegoated me, I would love to go into your office and say, WTF is wrong with you, you chicken shit. That is what I would love to say.
I want to throat punch you.
Did you have to get a certificate to be a dick, or does it just come naturally to you? That is absolutely what I would love to say, but will not say because I would like to stay employed. Right. And so wonderful questions and comments. I think that closes out this staff meeting. I can't wait to reconvene for future meetings. Thank you so much for joining us on HR Besties, where we talk business and BS.